So we've got some folks here, and it looks like everybody's sound should be turned on at this point. So whenever you're ready to get started, you can go ahead.
Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Linda Soderstrom. I live in Minnesota, and I'll let my colleague Alexis introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Alexis Kramer. I use she, her, and I also live in the state of Minnesota. Welcome, and I'm grateful to be here.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start out. Our session is about resiliency in the foster care system, and that is in light of invisible disabilities. So my first section is going to be fairly brief here, but I am a former foster parent, and all of my children had disabilities, visible and invisible. So I just wanted to bring up in the fact that when we're working with people, other human beings, how can we be more supportive, kind, and inclusive? When we are the worker, or even when we are the peer, when something else seems to be going on. For example, maybe the person forgets things, or we have to write down their appointment time for them before they leave our office. Or we wonder if someone's being willfully rude or disobedient or non-compliant is a big word you hear in the field. Um, so if a person is not being willfully disobedient and something else is going on, um, how can we widen our spectrum and have a better feeling toward providing that extra wraparound support that we know all humans need? We're all broken. We all need extra help. Sometimes we need a lot of extra help, and that's really okay. Many disabilities are invisible. And if they've never been diagnosed properly, then we don't even sometimes ourselves know what's going on with things like it could be attention deficit disorder. It could be a panic disorder. It could be so many things. So next slide, please. I very, very briefly am just going to speak about 3 or 4 disabilities that we've all heard of, but I'm not going to go deeply into them today. I am the foster and adoptive parent of a 40-year-old young gentleman who is doing quite well in the world, and he was diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome. We do now know that 1 in 20 school-aged children has been exposed to alcohol prenatally, and of course, those children grow up, and those learning disabilities show up across the lifespan. In autism spectrum disorder, we know that around 1 in 30 Americans have an autism spectrum disorder, which is a communication and interactional disorder, and which can make life very, very difficult, but they may never, ever have had special education. And that's also called Asperger's syndrome sometimes. Without the benefit of diagnosis, people themselves may not even know. Traumatic brain injuries are quite hidden. 5 million people express that they've had a traumatic brain injury in their lifetime. And in the last 12 months, 10 million report that they've had a traumatic brain injury with unconsciousness. I just looked that up this hour. And so 5 to 10 million Americans. And in the interest of time here, so Alexis has plenty of time to share her story with you, I'm going to just remind us all that 20% of the people in the United States have learning disabilities. So I called those all out on Google just now and asked Alexa to answer those questions, and you can do the same. It is amazing how prevalent invisible diagnoses are. There are so many invisible diagnoses, everything from Ehlers-Danlos, you might have heard of, 1 in 5,000, Williams syndrome, 1 in 7,500, Fragile X, 1 in 7 to 11,000. But yet we all know that 1 in 5 Americans have a mental health experience in their lifetime, and 1 in 3 or 4 women experience domestic violence in their lifetime. So my purpose in bringing that to light today was just that we become more sensitive and thoughtful, and as I said, provide the wraparound that we know everyone needs sometimes in their life. Next slide. We can study fetal alcohol syndrome, and I will make sure these slides are made available for you. We could go into a deeper dive about it, and I'm happy to talk about that ad infinitum. Next slide, please. Autism is a spectrum disorder, as is fetal alcohol. Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is like an umbrella, and autism spectrum disorder is like an umbrella that sits over a wide variety of symptoms that can occur. Next slide, please. Traumatic brain injury, likewise. Traumatic brain injury is through an accident or incident. And fetal alcohol is a prenatal brain and body injury. So these are not as well known as I feel they really should be. Next slide, please. Everybody is different, whether it's ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or it could be depression, or it could be diabetes, or it could be dyslexia, it could be fibromyalgia. So many things affect us deeply and make it harder for us to learn, or need to ask for our instructions a couple of times, or to be patient with each other. And that was my whole purpose in coming today, to just talk about how we can be more kind and thoughtful and patient with each other, especially when we know how prevalent learning disabilities and special needs and special conditions such as these. Everyone is different. We all learn differently, but that's the good thing about us. Next slide, please. Here's an example of something that when you want to take a deeper dive into this kind of thing, I don't want you to try to read that chart, but it's online, and it's called the overlapping characteristics between autism and fetal alcohol syndrome, which they can get mixed up with each other. So on the left side, we have everything that is about fetal alcohol syndrome, but you can see that even witnessing violence or abusive malnutrition, autism itself, these things all cause different signals and signs in children, especially. But then, like I said, when we grow up, we may still have some of these profiles and characteristics. Next slide, please. Again, across the lifespan, I'll just give you one example. My son is in his 40s, and from childhood and preschool, and then junior high, and then now in his adulthood, one of the best tips, and you can go through a couple of the slides here. I'm just giving people the idea that the research is out there for us. The next, I think, 2 slides. My son is an adult, and one of the advices given across the lifespan is accept his world, such as it is. Through my eyes, it may have limitations, but if I do not accept his world in full, I can't work with him. And that's my own kid. I mean, through adoption, but so I'm just saying there are steps and portals we need to step through to honor difference. Next slide, please. Keep going. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. And then finally, when we think that someone just won't cooperate, or, I mean, with children, we would say, well, they had those spelling words on Monday and they aren't even trying on Wednesday. But that's not true. That's not true when someone has brain differences. So cannot versus will not is just the lens that we use in parenting for special needs. And I wanted to share that with you today. And I will, as I said, make all these. You can see there's a lot of research that has gone into this. And we don't want to go take a deep dive into this right now because we're going to move along. But I will make these available to anyone who's interested happily. So next slide. And that's it for me. There's my email, and I will get in touch with anyone. We'll figure out a way to get your emails to me. And if you want to copy mine down, making sure you'll have access to these slides. And then now, I'm not sure if Ms. Washington is here, but Alexis Kramer is my colleague for many years. I've known her 5 or 6 years and honor her, and I admire her greatly. And I'm sure she knows that she has been working with a great deal of resilience in her story. And I get a little shivers just thinking about what's coming now, because Alexis Kramer is going to tell you a little more about herself. So I will pass the mic to Alexis.
Thank you, Linda. Hi, everybody. For those who missed my introduction, I'm Alexis Kramer. I use she, her. I live in the state of Minnesota, and I am a late diagnosis of autism mother that has 2 special needs children. So we're all autistic. We all have ADHD. My children are 6 and 8. I've been involved with the child welfare system. I've been involved with law enforcement, basically everything in the system. I've been homeless before. See what else? Been denied services in the system before because of my diversity. In the state of Minnesota, there's a lot of racial bias when it comes to Black and brown families, and so our children are taken more in place with Caucasian families rather than our own race. And it just really, it defeats the purpose of keeping children safe. And yeah, I wish my slides were up because right now I'm not feeling the best. I have been sick for about a week. And so I don't know. I don't really remember much about it.
We can put your slides. I'm pretty sure that the slides can be put up for you. It probably just takes a second.
Awesome. Yeah, because I don't remember anything.
You're fine.
So,
no worries.
So sorry, everybody. I'm just under the weather today. You can skip to the next slide. Okay, I said all that. Yep. Next slide. Okay, yeah. So for me, my barriers to disability was I was basically discriminated with housing, lack of affordable housing due to child protection being involved. Because of, you know, everything that's going on with the administration right now, there are recent cuts to Medicaid, food stamps, and HUD support. I am a person that is particularly on Section 8. I am legally certified disabled from the state, as long as also with my 2 boys. And just throughout these whole cases of dealing with child protection and everything else with the system, there's just been a lot of racism that people just don't understand. And obviously it doesn't really matter what race you are, it's just racism is always going to be there, which is really sad. And what I mean by ableism is, as a neurodivergent mother, as Linda stated earlier, a lot of people see behavior as a certain standard. And what I mean by that is, so like, for me personally, while I'm just learning about myself and learning how to deal with my autism and ADHD that I've had for my whole life, what I noticed is, like, in a way, we as a neurodivergent family have to be careful on how we act around people that don't have mental health or don't have autism or ADHD. We have to talk a certain way, we have to act a certain way. Otherwise, we're aggressive, we're labeled as aggressive, or we're labeled as we're bad people. Same with the criminal record stigma. With me being involved with child protection, I was accused of doing something that I didn't do because I was around unsafe people. I learned through modeling. And so growing up, I didn't have that safe person that I could rely on that would teach me how to be around safe people. And because of the trauma that I endured, my children were harmed multiple times, hence why child protection stepped in. And I had to plead guilty to a charge I didn't do in order to get my children back from CPS. And now I'm dealing with them again. However, I'm moving towards reunification now, which is also another barrier because the first time around, we didn't have any resources to help keep our family together. So rather than having all the resources that my children and I needed before I became a full-time mom again, they were just basically thrown at me. Here, you got them back. We're not going to help you. Figure it out on your own. And then I was struggling for 2.5 years, asking for help. And then we were around unsafe people again, and then they were taken again. And then, yes, next slide, please. Okay, the turning point. Let's see. Throughout this whole experience, I decided to go back to school for criminal justice because I wanted to be a child protection attorney for parents who are low income, because I felt like a lot of parents were not getting the help that they needed. And in order for me to get out of my survival mode, even though I'm still technically in survival mode, I had to figure out how to gain a community resource support to help me alongside through my symptoms. And so I had to meet a lot of people. Like, I'm in a lot of therapy. Like, you can imagine, through all the trauma that my family has been through, there's a lot of trauma I haven't dealt with myself as a mother through my childhood. And I'm in all these different therapies trying to get myself better so that I can help my children with their autism as well. And so, with the support system, that leads me into meeting Miss Washington. She is one of the many voices that has helped me advocate for myself, and help me find my voice. And also just being able to document like what I'm doing with my children. Like, I make sure like, if we're let's say we're at home and we're watching a movie, like, I'll document that just for my own purposes, just to hold me accountable and just to ensure that, like, people are just not judging me when I say certain things, because a lot of people like to misinterpret how I write things. And I just want to be clear, when it comes to autism, a lot of people communicate differently. And for me, it's hard for me to communicate. Like, I may be outspoken and outgoing, and I may be able to get my words through like certain presentations, but in reality, in real life, it's hard for me to actually find my words, especially when I'm put on the spot. So next slide, please.
And I want to say just quick, sorry, Alexis, we're going to wait till the end for questions. So if folks have questions, please hold them till the end.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, that's a lot of the resiliency. So for me, I love to write my own music. A lot of neurodivergent people love to express themselves through art because words are so hard to express. We basically express ourselves through behaviors, which to other people may seem like bad behaviors. But in our way, it's the only way we know how to communicate. If we're like, if we shut down or we don't know how to express it, then we turn to music. And so, yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so for those who, okay, so with my lived expertise, I use it to educate, advocate, and inspire. I want people to know that, like, no matter what they're going through, your voice matters, because I know, like, when I was dealing with this system the first hand, I had no idea what I was doing. I had nothing about the law. I didn't know how to speak up for myself. And I just feel really bad from all the stories that I heard from other families that like some families are scared to even fight against the system because of retaliation or something happens or the criminal background stage. So I just say this to say this, that your voice matters and lived expertise is important, and we need to be at every seat of the table. Next slide, please. So how can we prevent homelessness? I think it's a matter of ensuring that lived expertise, like I said, is at every seat of the table, including policy making, just making sure that there's enough money that we can invest to create supportive housing that's affordable for everybody. And what I mean by deeply affordable housing could be like 30%, such as like, for example, Section 8. If there, if like, I wish there was more to do to help all these people that are homeless right now, but there's just not enough money to help everybody with that. And so just being able to find like the supports that help people with their trauma ahead of time would help prevent homelessness. Having like that support for like family services could also help with prevention as well. Like, it had my children not been removed from me the first time around, I don't think I would have ever became homeless. I would have never lost everything. So there is a connection. When you're dealing with one part of the system, it kind of like messes up your hopes for everything else. Like, you can lose your job, you can lose your income, housing, your mental health will go bad, everything really. Next slide, please. All right. So the call to action. I'm going to read this word for word because I'm not going to lie, I'm very tired right now. When you see me, you see resilience. So you see a person that has gone through a lot, but is not afraid to say what is exactly on her mind. And then the questions that I would like to ask is, how can you use your position to prevent homelessness, and whose voices are you centering? I think I probably have like 5 or more slides, so I'm just gonna, yeah, hold those answers to the end. But yeah, next slide, please. But just think about it. Okay, and then okay, with this, I think I kind of already stated this, so we could just go to the next slide. I said that a little bit earlier. Yep, also said that as well. Yeah, we could just skip to the next slide. Okay. So how can we break this cycle? So obviously, like, it's hard to tell like who is neurodivergent and who is not. And so just basically trying to listen to those who are disabled and are neurodivergent is important. And what I mean by accessible communication is, so there are a lot of language that is specifically only for professionals, but it's not for the parents. And so making sure that language is broken down to where people can understand it is key. Protecting housing during CPS involvement, that's also hard. But just making sure that you're able to like advocate for yourself and for your family is idea. Or even if you don't know how to advocate, maybe finding somebody who can help advocate for you. And then obviously with CPS supporting reunification, that's what CPS should be doing. But in this society, it's not perfect. We're still working on changing the system, and so it's gonna take time. Next slide, please. Okay. Yeah. And then for the solutions, I would say, I'm just gonna pick out the main key points. There definitely needs to be training for those who aren't aware on disability justice. I think people who are social workers, law enforcement should be trained ongoing on disability justice, especially those who are autistic or have ADHD and whatnot. And yeah, and just making sure that people are connected with housing advocates as well. So if in case if they were involved with the system, then they would be able to get the support that they need to help with that. Next slide, please. Okay, my message to the system. When it comes to the system protecting children, don't just protect only the children. You need to protect the whole family. We are not asking, or I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for understanding as a neurodivergent mother. And as a whole, when everybody centers compassion, then that helps us prevent the homelessness. Next slide, please. And in closing, if everybody is okay with this, I just had a little prayer because I am a Christian and I do believe that that God finds a way for me to do what I do. He is the reason that I pushed through all this. So I'm just gonna say this quickly and then I'm gonna pass it to Miss Washington. Heavenly Father, thank you for turning our pain into purpose and our survival into strength. Bless every parent, advocate, and family represented here today. Heal what systems have broken, restore what was lost, and help us to keep rising with faith and love. May we continue to be rooted in your grace and guided by your light. And I pray this in Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for listening and joining. And with that, I will pass it to my colleague, Miss Washington.
Thank you. Okay. Hey, everybody. So I did not do a PowerPoint. And the reason why I didn't is because I just presented in Brainerd. So I am a parent student advocate. Community liaison is one of my colleagues, Dr. Sanders always, he says, Ms. Washington, change it to community liaison. So I just presented in Brainerd on burnout. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I have 4 children. My oldest is 28. My twins are 27. My youngest is 24. And I'm a grandmother of 9. One of my grandbabies is in heaven. And you're probably looking, going, "Ooh, girl, you look young. You look good." I know. I'm 46. My first child I had when I was 16 years old. So I had to mature pretty quickly, right? But my journey in this mental health world started February 21st, 1998. One of my babies was a miracle. And that's Angelica. She's one of the twins. She was, when I was pregnant, they told me she would be stillborn. And I said, I don't believe in negative results. The lady behind me is my grandmother, Mary Buckhausen. At the time, my grandmother was alive, and I said, I don't get negative results. So going forward, please keep that to yourself. And I understand you have to tell me, but I'm telling you not to because I only get positive. So they were just like, oh my God, mom is so positive and hopeful. Long story short, Angelica made it. She was 4'9", Angelique was 5'9". Angelica was diagnosed with developmental disability, ADHD, failure to thrive. So as you know, my house was a revolving door with different people from the county, pericare, you name it. We had a skills worker, everything. She did have a lot of behaviors in school. So I learned how to do an IEP literally at the age of 18. So I had my twins at 17. So I had to learn pretty quickly about this system that's not made for Black women, especially young women. So my children, all of my kids have a diagnosis. Angelica hasn't, Atasia has anxiety from her sisters. I guess that sibling thing, like seeing all the things and just being in a house with children. One of my twin daughters also have suicide ideation, really severe depression. We all are ADHD. And so that's kind of like how I got into this work. I'm a partners in policy graduate, class of 35. That's the governor's council. So I learned pretty fast on how to really navigate. I have been weaponized because I do have my own things. I do have anxiety. I am manic one bipolar. You guys are the first to hear this, and I know this is recorded, but my therapist, before he retired, he always says you don't have to tell people your diagnosis because as a Black woman, it is used against us. But sometimes I forget all of the things because I always been a mom. And so today, when I was asked to present, I said, sure. Even though I knew I was leaving from another presentation, I said, yes, I would love to share my experience and expertise. I've been knowing Alexis when I was the chair for the Child Protection Coalition. I never had to experience homeless. I was grateful for that. I had a little tiff with child protection, but the case was closed because my three children was very, I wouldn't say terrible, but they were challenging. Challenging. That's it. Very challenging. But so I'm just here today just to kind of talk about, at the end of the day, we all have something. And I think Miss Linda spoke on it earlier. After COVID, I think we all developed some anxiety, right? The world is changing every day. I think from COVID and George Floyd, the world ain't really never been the same. And yes, there is so much systemic racism. There's so much um stigma too in mental health. And as a Black woman, for me, and I can say for other, Black people that I've talked to, because I talk to a lot of people, one of our things is we don't trust the system. And I don't think that's never going to change because they make it hard for us to trust. But I just kind of want to wrap it up and just say, remember, if you're a parent on this call with children, remember to always have your kids' records. Remember to always take care of yourself. Remember, you are the boss. You are in charge. You can hire and fire anytime. And if you are a professional just coming to hear words or hear other people's stories, remember everybody has something going on and everybody is different. Try to be patient and try to lead with empathy and compassion because you never know what someone is going through. I had Section 8 for 25 years and I just lost it 2 years ago and I've been still grieving that. Right. So I might show up different. I have some burnout because I was also affected by food stamps. So my food stamps came late. So I say all that to say, always lead with kindness, always listen to understand, not to respond. And so that's kind of little gems I have for you. Again, I didn't give you no cute PowerPoint because I just really came here to support Miss Alexis and Miss Linda and just kind of, share just a tad. And I think that's all I have.
Great. Thank you all so much for your different presentations. And I know we have a couple of minutes left here. So I was gonna let you all know some of the things that have come through in the chat and then some questions that we have in the Hoover app, so that you can answer them out loud if you feel up to it right now. So the first thing to say is some folks recognize you. There's some other folks from Minnesota here, which is great. Kitty and Lakita. And then we just have some good thanks in the chat talking about how you all have expanded folks thinking about disabilities and how inspirational some of your stories were. And just big thanks for sharing out what it is that you shared today. So as for questions that came through, maybe one that we could start with, because I think it relates to what a couple of you talked about. How can we transform systems to be responsive to invisible disabilities?
I'm on the state suicide task force, and I was just talking about, I think, so like no one would ever know that I have anxiety, right? I got diagnosed in 2018. That's when I start receiving different benefits because I'm legally diagnosed. But people would never know. I just think really just continuing to educate yourself, right? I don't like when people say, cultural competency because I think it's more to that, right? It's some humility trainings, it's some other things. But I would say for me, I think just really trying to educate yourself and really get to know people, do that human to human, person to person. Really sit down. I can go to the nail shop and I can learn so much. I mean, I have my best conversations and good thoughts come from the nail shop and Target because I don't judge anybody. I sit, I listen, and then you find out things. I don't have people telling me I saved their lives. They were feeling suicidal. And I wouldn't even known that. I just sit and talk. So I would say try to sit, talk to people, really try to understand, and you'll be surprised what you can find out because you don't have to go to college to learn how to be kind. A lot of times this is just, as my grandma would say, common sense. That's what I think. I don't know about the others.
Linda here. I will just say you reminded me about the IEPs, which is an individual educational plan that kids receive from early childhood through high school. And I really learned that I have to be kind and expect that in return, but also very, very firm that I am the expert on my child and I am the boss of that team, whether they think the superintendent is supposed to talk over me or not. I present and take the strongest chair at the table that I can find. I arrive early. I bring a psychologist, I bring a lawyer. And I would say that that same type of self advocacy that I showed for my child is something that we all need to do for ourselves as well. And even how would you protect and how would you represent a child or a young person or a youth or someone in need of an advocate and be a self advocate, if that makes sense? I hope it does.
Thanks. Do you want to add anything?
Hey everybody, this is
Oh,
me,
sorry,
Sean.
Mashawn. Wait 1 second.
Oh,
Alexis, did you want to add anything to the last question? You're saying no? Okay, go ahead, Mashawn, then you can ask your question.
hey everybody. So this is me, Sean. I'm with the Chicago, Illinois CLC. Um, to answer that question, I think the answer I would give would be to retrain people on trauma-informed care. Um, because honestly, you really can't convince somebody of something that's invisible. But once we can inform people how to treat everyone in this industry, I mean, as if they're already going through something, and we really don't have to worry about an invisible barrier. It should already be assumed that folks are already going through something, and we treat them with a little bit more care, would
And
be the response.
and also examining your own bias. I also do speaking all the time, as I mentioned. So I was the keynote for children's. And one of my biggest things on my PowerPoint was examining your own bias. We all have them, right? And for example, I'm from North Minneapolis, North Side, born and raised. I will go back because I'm now in the suburbs, but I'll go over there and sometimes I clutch my purse and I'll be like, girl, you from over here. But I have a bias and I'm aware of that. And I think some providers lead with this big them, little us kind of thing. So it's supposed to be power with, not power over. And I tell people that all the time. I'm battling with my grandson's school, and I tell them, y'all, this is our meeting. And I tell my daughter, you are the boss. The principal told my daughter, do you guys have a doctor's note about his ADHD? A doctor's note? Well, here's his DA, but we're telling you this, and this is what we expect. And I'm also the vice chair for disability law, the Midwest Minnesota. So, I have my lawyers in the email, because people would try to challenge you. How are you going to challenge me about me? And providers get it twisted. But then I always call it the Miss Washington experience. They get a real good experience. They may not like it, but they get it together. So examining your own bias, listen, and understand, we know about us, we know about our children, and even if you're a provider, you know about your client. My dad is in prison doing natural life. He's battling because he had hip surgery and they're trying to tell him like he's fine. Well, he's the one with the pain. It doesn't matter because he's in jail. He still is a human. So
Thank you so much for saying that, because that's a really good, honest answer. We all have a bias somewhere. Being able to be honest about that is important. Good point.
you had a good point too.
Thank you.
Sue, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, thanks. Sue Watlow Phillips, also from Minnesota. Thanks, Miss Washington. Great presentation. Alexis, great presentation and also prayer. And Linda, great slides and presentation. Linda, could you just talk a little bit about what you talk about a lot with Homes for All and other groups? And obviously that you're part of Micah's, you coordinate our speakers bureau, about the importance of pausing and waiting for people. Can you just share a little bit about the importance of that? Uh,
Linda, you're muted.
Hey. Yeah, thank you. I will, Sue, but I took a big deep sigh there because I'm 75 years of age, and that's such a lesson I'm still trying to learn. It's very important with my son, that he is the big talker when we're together. He's an expert on a whole lot of things, and he goes a little too far. I have to let him know, like, thank you. I don't know about the trillion, million, zillion that you were just talking about, those rocket ships, but you know, in terms of the homelessness and being on a Section 8 voucher and learning what other people are going through with their vulnerabilities and instabilities and their insecurities. I am so moved by other people's stories and have had the privilege of organizing a speakers bureau here in Minnesota of people with lived and living experience. And I can't tell you how much I am just moved in my heart and soul when people are telling their stories on the panels that we bring to churches and other venues. um, it's the response of the other people on the panel when they're listening that has taught me a great deal about learning to listen more. And I'm a big talker and I'm yakety yak person, very active deliverer of communication. But thanks for asking that question, because there's nothing wrong with being quiet with others in a safe space and like-minded people, and also giving time and space. um, we all have had harm that has been done to us, and so to take that minute, and there's another group in Minnesota that lived, we call it lean, the lived experience advocacy network. When we are getting ready to go to our homeless day on the hill, and we're starting to get maneuver all our the details of staying in the hotel a couple of nights and all that stuff, when people come together and they just talk about something that went wrong, we talk about what's good and what's working and solutions, but when somebody brings up something that is just so very wrong, it's almost like church. No one can speak. We don't speak because we can't speak. And so you can't after you've heard something. So anyway, to close, I am in business meetings, and I'm asking people to please allow some time at the end of the meeting for a debrief for newcomers and onboarding, but also in the meeting, if someone expresses something that is deeply painful that we have been through, please pause, learn to stop. And that's for the professionals. Just let the time be, let us sit with each other. That's more healing sometimes than business as usual. So thanks for that question.
And I think, Linda, that just to follow up on that, with people, and we all have different issues in our life and different hidden disabilities, the importance of giving people that time and space to come up with what they want to say, too, I think is what you really continue to encourage us to do, is to give people time to express that. So often in meetings, especially those of us of either European American or Caucasian, we have time limits and things like that, and just don't give people that space to just really have some time to formulate their ideas and express it the way that they want to express it, which has been talked a lot about in the conference. Thanks.
Heather, did you have something that you wanted to ask or say? I'm sorry, your hand went down.
I actually, Sue just touched on it, was the space to, I know that with a lot of experience personally and otherwise, that if we don't give enough space for people that take time to think, that have differing abilities with forming words, sometimes that just indicates to them that we're so impatient that they should just shut up. And instead of allowing them the space and time to speak, and it can really hinder the process that we're trying to kind of guide them or help them through as professionals or as peers, indicate that we're not willing to be a person that's safe. And if we do want to hold these safe spaces for others, allowing them the quiet that they need for forming the thought and being able to put that thought to words. So Sue mentioned what she did, and therefore I no longer had whatever, but thank you.
Well, I really appreciate that addition. Thank you. Nishan, I see your hand.
Yes, really quick, I just wanted to say this. In response to subconscious bias, one of the things that I've learned about myself is when I see somebody with a disability, for some reason, subconsciously, I think about how I would react if I had the same disability. And so this is a subconscious way of marginalizing a person. So I just want to say if we can be mindful not to put ourselves in their position, because it causes the brain to think that they may not have a disability when we think about how we would respond with the same.
I have a question for you. You just made me think about something, right?
Okay.
So,
Mm-hmm.
this actually to everybody, but specifically because you just made me think of something. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, my anxiety, right? I just recently developed a lot of post-traumatic stress, and it comes from
Right.
me living in certain neighborhoods and seeing
Right.
certain things. I watched my brother do something, I watched someone almost die. And so
Mm-hmm.
that developed that heightened my anxiety.
Right.
So my mental health with the anxiety comes from that. So when you say that, because see, let me see how I want to put this. I think when people, a lot of people don't want to talk about their anxiety or their bipolar or their ADHD because some people just look at it as a person with a disability. I think a lot of people have undiagnosed issues, right? For
Right.
example, my mom is from North Memphis. She got some trauma, but they how they were raised, they never talked about it. And so I
Mm-hmm.
don't share different things about me because people judge and they kind of look at it as, oh, Sarah, that she crazy. She got anxiety. Okay, I don't know if y'all watch the Braxtons. Tamar also has depression and bipolar. Tamar, her sisters know. Soon as her and Tawana got into it, Tawana said, I ain't arguing with somebody who ain't well. What? But that's how we are looked at. So I just, kind of what you said made me think about when you say when I see someone with a disability, I think sometimes don't put someone diagnosis first. It's people first. The
Mm-hmm.
disability or the issue don't come first. And I tell the schools that too. Angelica has developmental disability, but what does that have to do with how you're treating her?
That's
Disability
right.
second, people first.
Absolutely.
And that's why my
Um,
doctor always told me, Sarah, don't tell nobody you what you got because they're gonna use it against you. And he ain't never lied. Grant Berg retired. I missed it. That was my best therapist. But I feel like everyone got undiagnosed, things that are undiagnosed. And I feel everyone could benefit from a therapist. So I just wanted to say that you made me kind of think about like, I don't think look at people first and then worry about what's after.
100%. The first example that came up when you asked the question is here in the city, riding the public transportation can be very dangerous. And even though people know that, um, me personally, I'm not afraid to ride the trains or the bus. However, can utilize the trauma informed care when somebody says they don't ride the train or bus. I don't say it ain't scary because I don't know what they've experienced. And as far as the undiagnosed part is, there's always some PTSD. That's like the common denominator when it comes to a whole lot of this stuff. Thanks.
Great. We have about 10 minutes left, so definitely some more time for questions if folks have them. I'm not seeing any hands raised or anybody on mute. So I'm gonna ask another. Oh wait, there we go. Heather, do you want to ask a question or say something?
Yeah, I was just going to tack on to what Ms. Washington and Michonne was talking about. And I think that essentially what they're saying is my experience is not someone else's experience. So walking into that situation saying, what would I do if I had this disability? And coming back and not making that assumption. And I think that's something we all can work on is that while we want to be empathetic and we want to try to walk a mile in someone's shoes, we cannot utilize our experiences that we've had in the way that we would react to try to formulate what they feel. So instead, being present in the moment, as Miss Washington was saying, um, is critical, being there to listen and that. So that's all.
Thank you. I also see Sue, your hand's raised.
Yeah, kind of tack on to what everybody's saying. I facilitate a Bible study in public housing, and one of our folks is blind. And I really find her to be one of the most courageous people that I've ever met in regards to doing public transportation and other things. And I think being present with folks and listening to what they want and need, as opposed to putting ourselves into their situation, even though I know that I have macular degeneration and I potentially could be blind, that will be different than being blind from birth, as she is. And then the other thing that I don't think that we've really touched on here is traumatic brain injury. And we know that a lot of people that have experienced homelessness and domestic violence are dealing with that. And that's a processing issue. And again, I think going back to what I said before, the importance of pausing, and as Linda has said many times in meetings, is pausing and giving people a chance, because the processing is very different for each person. Thanks.
I'll just say real quick, and Alexis, you might have some parting words or closing thoughts for us too. And the thing that comes to mind as we wrap up our compassion fatigue, because now that we understand to be more subtle, more encompassing, we broaden our spectrum, we provide wraparound. We're getting really good at the wraparound spiritually and in every other way. And but that takes a lot. And so we in Minnesota, a lot of times we'll just close a meeting by saying self-care, 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 and trying to explore what that might mean, and how we can help each other discover what works for each person, because that's individual as well. Penny, I see your hand, and you were there earlier on. What's your thought?
Yeah, I do have a learning disability myself, developmental disability. But I also, I don't know what it's diagnosed about. I just know when they tested my brain waves, he found out that my brain waves slow down. And just like Sue was just now saying, about processing. And I notice when I could tell when my brain waves slow down, because I can't process, it's like the deer in the headlights, kind of syndrome, kind of dumbfounded. Sometimes you gotta have that understanding with some people, and maybe reword something, break it down to simple wording, and sometimes just reword it, because you know trying to understand, what people are saying sometimes is like, what? So having that kind of understanding, and, you know, simple words, or rewording the question, or, you know, understanding like that, being patient.
Yeah.
And I love you, Sue, and everybody else.
Love you, Penny.
You guys,
Love you, Penny.
I gotta run. I got a nail appointment.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Miss
Yeah.
Washington.
See y'all. God bless. Bentley,
Bye.
my dog said be blessed. I gotta run. These
Okay,
Great.
bye,
Bye.
everybody.
I'm doing
Everybody
Happy
else.
self-care.
blessing.
Thanks, Miss Washington. Everybody else, we still have a few minutes if you want to stick around and you don't have a nail appointment to go to. I had seen maybe Kimberly had a hand up for a little bit, but maybe took it down. Okay. Alexis, I know Linda had previously tried to pass it to you to see if you had any closing words. Do you have anything that you want to end the session on?
That's such a hard question because I don't. I mean, I feel like I can't top what everybody else said, but I would just say just be yourself, be uplifting. We are in hard times right now. Um the most we can do is just look at the positives upon the negatives. So, like, as for example, like I have a roof over my head. Even though I have housing issues and apartment issues, I still have a roof over my head. So I just see that as a positive. Yeah, kind of like that. Just be like, okay, like what are the highs? What are the lows? It's hard not to dwell on the negative stuff, especially when you're so used to doing it. But just give yourself some grace. Um, take time to yourself, however you like to do that. Like Linda said, it is hard to figure out what self-care looks like for everybody. So just do something that you enjoy that makes you happy. And yeah. And with that, I thank everybody for coming.
Yeah, thank you both so much. And thanks to Miss Washington who had to leave us early. You all are finishing right on time. It was a great session. Really appreciate you doing all the work to get here. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.